Hey, welcome back. In this video, let's do an interesting experiment related to these memory management strategies that we have in lesson 3A. Okay, so in this lesson, the main challenge that we were trying to overcome was how do you manage history of conversation when a user is interacting with an AI assistant or a chatbot. So there are three strategies that we reviewed. So the default is stuff everything in. So as a user interacts with a chatbot, they ask a question, there's a response, and as that continues over time, what we are doing is appending that history and adding it as context every time the model, the LLM, has to respond. So we are saying, here's the history, here's the new question, now respond to it. And you can see how that can scale badly over time if the conversation continues longer and longer. So the other strategies we discussed was, first is the top recent K turns that we can limit the conversation history to. So if maybe the conversation may have had 50 turns, but maybe you just keep the last 3 turns or last 5 turns, and that's all you're sending to the LLM for context. And then the other one, which is more intelligent, is you're refining or summarizing the history of conversation. So if the history, there's some kind of a summary. Next, you have a question that gets answered, and then before the next question gets answered, you take the original history, you take the new question and the answer that we had, you do another refinement of the history, and then that becomes a new history, right? So those are the three strategies. I hope those are pretty straightforward, and these agentic frameworks like LangChain, they manage that for you, right? So you don't have to write your code yourself. But in this video, let's see a real simulation of what that would mean in terms of token usage, okay? So again, there's a code repository connected to this lesson, and there's a script run week 3 L3A. This is for lesson 3A, memory strategies, right? And I won't walk through the code. I won't even actually run it. I've already run this. It's if you run it, might take a minute or so to run, but we are just trying to simulate what's happening with token usage, right? So for this simulation, what we've done is prepared a list of questions that the user would ask, and this is specifically to that VAE, variational autoencoder publication. You could use some other publication. You'll just have to write your own questions for it. And what we are doing is simulating a conversation over time. So you give a question, you wait for the answer, then you give the next question, wait for the answer, and so on. So there's a long list of questions, I think more than 50, but then you can, when you run the simulation, you can define how many questions you want to ask and after that. So that's going to drive how much token usage you're going to have over time, okay? All right, so that's the experiment. And what we want to show is what you get with these three strategies. And we are mainly focused on token usage here. We will get into evaluations, how this actually impacts the performance in terms of the quality of responses we get from the chatbot. That will come later when we go over evaluations. For now, we're just looking at the token usage, right? So when you run the script, and there's some options that you have to answer, whether you want to run all three strategies at once or you want to do one strategy in isolation. So I run all three. Let's look at the summary results here. Okay, let me turn this into a preview mode so it's a little easier to see. And here, what I've done is, I've only done this for 10 questions. You could do it for 20, 30, just to see how it goes. But really, this gives you enough idea of what's happening, right? So we have three strategies. Again, the default is stuffing, next is trimming, and summarization. And if you really think about these strategies, it should be obvious which one over time will have the least token usage. I hope that is not a surprise to you. So of course, the highest one is stuffing, because you're keeping all the history and sending it to the LLM every single time, right? It's basically accumulating every time, and there's nothing lost. So that's the highest. You see stuffing over those 10 turns, 10 question answer turns. We've used up a total of 50,000, 51,000, roughly 52,000 tokens. And you can see the question part of it, which is what the user is sending, along with the history, is obviously much longer. The responses over those 10 is roughly a fifth or a sixth of that, right? So that's the stuffing strategy. Now, when you do the trimming, you will see it has the highest savings, token savings, 35%. Again, this is over 10 question answer pairs. If you run this much longer, you're going to get much higher token savings here. Summarization, slightly lower savings. Now, again, this should be obvious that over time, if you're summarizing it, depends on how much, you can always prompt the LLM to summarize it a lot. You can say, just give me one paragraph summary, but the default way we summarize here, it's still coming out to be slightly longer summaries. And if you're giving multiple turns of questions and answers over time, you do expect the summary to continue growing, although not as linearly as the stuffing strategy, right? So yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise, these results, that trimming has the lowest token usage over time. as the conversations get longer, stuffing has the highest, right? Again, I want to add a big caveat here that we have not yet reviewed the quality of the responses. That's going to be a major factor. And so when you're choosing the token, the memory management strategies, don't just rely on token usage, which is related to cost. You also have to look at the quality of responses. Okay, so yeah, that's one thing I wanted to review. You can actually look at the individual reports that we have for the 3 strategies. We actually have, for example, the token usage by each question as it goes over time. You can see those results yourself. Okay, so yeah, the important part here is that these are the types of experiments that you have to do in production systems. In hobby projects, you don't really pay too much attention to it, although you do want to pay attention to the cost of it. But in production cases like this, these costs can balloon over time. In fact, this is a huge issue with agentic AI systems, is some of these costs get vastly underestimated at the beginning, and over time, if the system is used a lot, you can start seeing those costs add up quite significantly. So yeah, I hope this was a useful exercise for you. These are the types of experiments you should be doing. By the way, the simulation of these questions, there's a lot more we do for these kinds of things. Unit tests that we do, other types of testing, load testing. These are important considerations when you're trying to get the system to be production ready. All right, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.